Hi, it's Brendan from Crane Appliance. Since 1983, our goal as a family-owned company has been simple: to give our neighbors on the Cape and Islands a great shopping experience. Rest easy knowing our professional team will listen to your needs and help you pick the perfect appliances for your home. At Crane Appliance, we know how difficult appliance shopping can be. Our team is here for you. Crane Appliance. We call the Cape and Islands home.
Carlson Printing, 508-548-7303. Our email address is carlsonprinting@aol.com. Carlson Printing, for all your printing needs. John's Liquor Store, 729 Main Street, Falmouth, 508-548-2287.
Good evening. I would like to open the meeting of the Falmouth Select Board. It is January 6, 2025. It is exactly 6 o'clock. And I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to review and consider approval of a proposed workers' compensation settlement for a school employee under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3.
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor by roll call, please.
Linsky, aye.
Brown eye. Muscali, aye.
Goldstone, aye.
Taylor, aye. And the board will return to open session at 6:30. Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Falmouth Select Board. It is January 6, 2025. It is exactly 6:30 p.m. and the Falmouth Select Board has just returned to this open session from an executive session. I'm going to ask, as we open this meeting, to please silence your cell phones and make sure that they are silenced. And number two, please notify me as the chair or if you are making any audio or video recording of this open meeting. The placement and operation of the recording equipment should not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How was that? Nailed it, Bob.
Thank you. We will move into recognitions, and I would like to make one recognition, and that is for FHS junior Silas Gartner, who won the MIAA Division II State Championship in cross country. Very big deal. He's an incredible runner, and congratulations to him from the Select Board. Any other recognitions? Mr. Zielinski?
Yep, I would like to recognize Lieutenant Sean Doyle, who retired this week from the Falmouth Police Department. Many of the board members were there, and it was very well received. In excess of 35 years of service to the town. So if you see him out and about on a detail, wave to him, because he'll still be around. But he was great. It was a great send-off.
It was great. I felt really lucky to be able to be in attendance there that day. It was just a great moment.
I was really pleasantly surprised at the number of officers from past and brand new that attended. The place was chock-a-block full, and it was quite a testament to Sean Doyle as both a person, a community member, and a police officer.
And some of those retirees traveled to come.
Yes.
Flew
to
in.
get there.
Yeah,
It was amazing.
that was great.
Any other recognitions from the board? Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to get into announcements, and I have an announcement as well. And the announcement is basically to the board is that the FinCom will begin its meetings regarding the FY26 budget on Wednesday, January 8th. If any board member has any questions or needs clarification on any item, I would encourage you to attend and bring anything back to the board as a whole in terms of any recommendations that you would like this board to consider. And they meet, I believe, at 5 o'clock at the Herman Meeting Room
That is correct.
on Wednesday. That's it for me. Any other announcements?
Just one, since we won't be
Scally?
meeting in 2 weeks because it's Martin Luther King Day. Just that, as in past years, the Cape Cod Foundation and No Place for Hate will be sponsoring the Martin Luther King Breakfast. This year, it is at a different location. It is at the Coonamessett. It's been in the Seacrest in the past. So 9 o'clock, you can go on the No Hate website to register if you want to attend.
Thank you, Mr. Muscally.
I'm registered, and also the Mass Municipal Association meeting is January 23rd, 24th, 25th, if any select board members are interested to attend.
I'll be going.
I'll be in that as well.
Great. Any other announcements from the board? Okay, we'll move into public comment. Public comment may be made on routine matters not on the agenda this evening. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself, and since the matter has not been included on the agenda, the Select Board will not participate in any discussion or debate of your topic. Is anyone here for public comment?
Well,
No one wants, okay. Then we will move on. We will, actually, we cannot start our public hearings just yet. So what I would like to do, with the board's approval, is to move into the consent agenda.
Community interviews?
Committee interviews for the Golf
Yeah,
Advisory.
I'm sorry, we can do interviews first. Certainly, we do have interviews for the Golf Advisory Committee. Is Darcy Hunter here? I missed that. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Darcy Hunter. I live at 14 Quanon Way.
Okay, Mr. Hunter, is there anything that you would like the board to know about you that is not included in your application?
I care about the town of Falmouth, about golfing, about the Falmouth Country Club. I've been an avid golfer for 30 years. Early on, didn't golf a lot because I was raising a family, but over the past 2 or 3 years, I golf a couple times a week. I'm an active member with a group called the Birdie Boys. Dave and I manage it together. We have 32 members, and we golf on Mondays and on Thursdays. My wife also golfs, and she, just fair in full disclosure, she works as an hourly employee at Falmouth behind the bar on Wednesdays, and she drives the beer cart on Fridays. And I have been following along for the last 3 years the unsuccessful RFP as a kind of standing in for the Golf Advisory Committee. I care about the town of Falmouth. My wife's had a home here for 60 years. We moved here in 2015. Since 2018, we've lived here full time. I work at Habitat for Humanity and Restore Store. I also volunteer at the Falmouth High School as part of the college mentoring program, and I'm a newcomer. I did my 4th or 5th newcomer parade. Standing on the parade is a lot of fun. Get to build the parade too, and that's pretty good. I'm a successful businessman. I worked for 38 years for the same company. It was a Fortune 200 company. I worked from sales intern up to a general manager, VP, running one of the divisions. For me, I manage based on consensus and on team building and on accountability. And in general, I'm a pretty good project manager and have a lot of success or a lot of experience in building and construction. And I welcome the opportunity to work with the town, with Carrie Murphy on the Golf Advisory Committee, to make sure that we have the best golfing experience for our residents and for our visitors.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Since you golf a lot, do you notice any deficiency or any need for improvement at the course?
There's always opportunity for improvement.
Is there anything that's been obvious to you?
I know they're replacing and upgrading the golf carts this year. I think that when you look at the course, greens and some of the fairways are in very good shape, but once you get off that, in just the very short rough, it becomes pretty gnarly pretty quick. And there's various other things. You know, the clubhouse itself really, I'm going to say, isn't a place you stop and get a sandwich, barely a hot dog. People might want more than that.
Interesting, thank you.
Any other questions, Ms. Goldstone?
Yeah, we're at obviously a key juncture at this point with the RFP, and any changes that may be coming in the next 18 months, the tenure of this. So I'm curious what is top of mind for you and why now to join this committee? What's kind of your top motivation?
Well, again, I moved here 3 years ago when I retired. Well, I moved here in 18, I retired 3 years ago. I golf a lot. Falmouth is very convenient for everything. The people that I know on the Birdie Boys, our group, there's 32 of us, we're all friends. We want to be playing at the best place we can. And so is there an opportunity to get in there, get involved? I know it's an advisory committee, so it's pretty light, kind of a very hands-off kind of thing. But the club really could be a lot more than it is in certain areas. And is there an opportunity to help? I mean, I think there's a lot of people in the community that have got a lot to give and really care about golfing, and I want an opportunity to be engaged in that.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Edward Pride here?
Yep.
Up there would be great. And I will ask you the same question. Is there anything you would like the board to know about you that is not written in your application?
I think, well, like him, I do play a lot of golf over there. I play 9 holes typically. I'm not in a group. I'm down to an 18 handicap, so I'm kind of proud about that. But I do play a lot of golf around the Cape. I have a friend who lives in Yarmouth, and we try to play all the courses down here. And I noticed that the courses in Yarmouth are owned by the town, and I think Hyannis owns Old Barnstable and Hyannis Golf Club. And I don't think they have a management, a company managing the course. So I don't know, but maybe we should look to take over the course and run it ourselves. I just think we should look at other alternatives. I also think that the clubhouse, such as it is, isn't servicing the town very well. It could be used for a lot of events. I mean, if you could bring in an entrepreneurial person to run it. You also have a shed out by the turn on the 18 holes that's never open. It used to be open when I was a kid. I mean, I grew up down here. I didn't go to school here. My parents sent me off to boarding school. And then my wife and I inherited the house. I bought it from my brother. We moved down here 8 years ago, year-round. And I just want to be more involved in the town. I just think that, we have a gem over there. I know a lot of courses are going out of business. There is Cape Cod. I mean, there's another alternative. So the other idea is, why not just shut it down and people can go and play Cape Cod? I don't know. I just think there are a lot of things that you could do over there that no one's really doing. So that's the only reason why I was looking at, do this position. So.
Thank you. Questions
Yeah.
from the board?
That was a pretty good explanation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything
All right.
else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, David Holm?
Been a Falmouth resident for almost 25 years. Been here 7 years full-time. Retired from Connecticut. And when retired, we started playing golf. And it's a wonderful game because it gets you to think, and you got to be active. And so I shared with Peter this concept called the Blue Zone, which is how do we make Falmouth a Blue Zone designated place? And one of the key levers in the Blue Zone is around activity, which is the golf course. 2 is friendship. You build friendship through these different leagues that you belong to, and you meet their spouses, and you build more relationships. So it's about, again, extending friendships and families. So I've gotten to know Darcy quite well and Mary quite well through our leagues that we have on Monday and Thursday. We've also sponsored a group called the Jack and Jill Group, which is a group of men and women that come together to play golf in a more of a friendly way versus being more active and being competitive. So I believe that Falmouth has an opportunity to utilize the course as a blue zone, a concept for both residents and for non-residents. Two is we do over 60,000 rounds of golf a year, which is 180,000 hours of golf time. And so if you can improve that experience through small things, like, for example, to your question of having a, not a hurricane, but a thunderstorm warning on the 9th hole on the Osprey, because that's 2.5 miles outside, where if there's a thunderstorm in the afternoon, there's no warning system out there. So how do we create an environment that creates safety for golfers? That'll be a marked improvement. I've shared that with Matt and company. So I think Falmouth has an opportunity to really make this a great place. I also volunteer for the Cape Cod, the airport, in building out their corporate strategy, mission, vision, and to really expand the whole concept of Blue Zone for people to fly commercial planes into Hyannis as a way to experience the Cape. So that's a little bit about my background, why I think there's an opportunity here to make this a unique asset.
Great.
Interesting.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I was going to ask you for any obvious things that you would see as need for improvement. I see you've already mentioned the one with the warning system.
Yeah, I think also things like having water at different holes. On hot days, people get dehydrated, and I think that for a lot of golfers that are older, that could create some issues for them. And getting an ambulance on some of those holes when they're far out in the Osprey would be a difficult task. So simple things like water, warning systems, a golf person to go out there to move the players along faster. Would be a ranger would be small things.
Right. Improving the experience.
Yeah.
Thank
all
you.
about improving the experience.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Is
you.
Robert Young here?
Bob Young from North Falmouth, and I am a former member of the committee. Been here a lot longer than 26 years, though, my entire life. It's an exciting time for the golf course, and I've been following everything that you folks have been dealing with. RFP, so I have a few comments to add to what I've already sent. From what I've submitted with my application, you know my background and qualifications. I'm seeking a position on the Golf Advisory Committee now after the recent request for proposals to operate the course received no offers. If appointed, I can add input on a new RFP through the committee and advise town management within this regard. During the past 20 years, we have had a very, very successful public-private operation of the golf course and have met all debt obligations. It's essential that this relationship continue. It's a balancing act between the town and the operator. We need to satisfy the annual bond payment, which is around $610,000 a year, while the operator still wants to make a profit. Both of these have been accomplished so far during these 20 years. Now, this marathon is continuing, but we're getting kind of in the home stretch. Now we have 10 years to go to pay off the bond. The outlook is promising as golf is booming. As a member of the Golf Advisory Committee, I would like to assist the town in developing a successful long-term financial operation and also help establish long-term goals for the course. Going on what needs to be done, we took care of the watering system about 10 years ago with a dual system, and that's great. About a year ago, we took care of the maintenance sheds. Those have been taken care of, and they're protecting the equipment. Right now, a very serious issue is the basement area of the clubhouse where there's water damage, and that needs to be taken care of between us and the operator, whoever comes along. And I could answer any questions the board has.
Questions from the board. Mr. Muscali?
Yes, Mr. Young, I remember you came before us when we were discussing the RFP
Yes.
back in November, and you had some concerns about the process, what the RFP was contained and how we were going. Do you have any thoughts about, what might be something we might want to think about as we go out to RFP again, probably in April or thereabouts?
Yes, I do, and satisfying the bond, and we've been getting $400,000 each year as a base rent from the current operator. And since COVID, we've had tremendous amount of money, probably $2.5 million, close to that, including this year, that is a revenue share. So I would look at something that would have a base continuing with that $400,000 range, and then a threshold that was fair, and above that, maybe 50-50 share of the surplus, so the town would get, well, probably close to $1 million if we continue what we have now, and we'd get satisfying that bond and go forward 10 years, and the operator would then make a fair profit for himself.
There is a concern, that I think has been expressed, is that, can we continue, or can those number of rounds continue? And what happens, if they start dropping?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. The Cape is a good destination for golfers, and we've been averaging around 57,000 the last 2 years, which is a nice number for a 27-hole outlet. In the background that's looming is Cape Cod Country Club could go away. I think it's going to be here next year, but the proposal for a solar array out there is still probably going to happen. And if that should occur, Falmouth Country Club wouldn't be able to handle the influx of golfers. But you can go. I went up there the other day to play. It was a sunny day, and he said there wasn't a tee time until 1:30 in the afternoon. So the people are there, the numbers are there. That's not going to go away. We have an aging, retired population in Falmouth, as we all know, and Falmouth Country Club is one of the affordable outlets for residents and guests.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
I guess Mr. Muscali already sort of touched on my question, but I do remember that you had commented before the RFP that maybe we were not asking enough for the revenue from the RFP, and I'm wondering now that we weren't successful, I'd like to see us maybe consider 10-year timeframe. I think the 25-year is maybe too long, there's too much unknown, and I'm also thinking maybe we shouldn't ask for so much revenue. Have you thought more about that?
I think 25 years, town meeting voted we could go out that far, but I think 10 years would be a nice round number to get us through this bonding. Once that's satisfied, the town's going to be getting $600,000, $800,000, $900,000, $1 million a year for your town manager to use for things other than, it's like paying off the mortgage on your house.
Right.
I would like to see that base stay around 400, 500,000, and in a fair, you can't have an 80-20 or a 70-30 split. That operator has got to get some too. He's got a lot of expenses out there and equipment. We have only been putting 50,000 a year into the capital out there, so that's kind of a bare minimum. So I would say $400,000 to $500,000 range for a base, and then a little bit more of the revenue share, 50-50 probably.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Goldstone?
I'm going to borrow Doug's question. Where do you see opportunities for improvement in addition to the continued success that you're talking about?
Improvements on the course, well, the cart paths could be improved for sure. There's a lot of issues there. As far as playability, we can be proud of our town golf course. It is in top shape. I'll tell you, the greens are beautiful out there, the fairways are nice, and the superintendent, a fellow named Marai, does a great job with his crew. So as far as course improvements, maybe a little bit of bunker work, cart paths, clubhouse may be a little bit ahead of that. As far as trying to generate more revenue, I think we're kind of peaking right now. The revenue share this year is going to put, with the base rent, about $1 million to the town.
Any other questions or comments for this candidate? Okay,
Madam
thank
Chair,
you.
I'd make a motion to appoint Mr. Young to a term, to the Golf Advisory Committee, to a term ending June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board?
Well, I'd just like to thank all of the applicants for their interest. They're all well qualified. I call upon them all to stay involved. This is going to be a very important next 6 or 8 months with respect to the golf course. They're all avid golfers, and I think as much public input and involvement that we can have will only make a better RFP and a better process. But I certainly second Mr. Zelinski's motion to appoint Robert Young as at-large representative for a term ending in June 2026.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I second his comments about the applicants, and thank you all for reaching out.
Agree. I think it's terrific when we've got this many folks vying for a seat on a committee, and really appreciate also the diversity of ideas for where our golf course could go and how we could make it better. So, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. We still have a few minutes, so I will go through the consent agenda and take it out of order because we cannot start the hearings until exactly 6:55. So I'm going to read through the consent agenda. If any board member would like to hold an item, please notify me as the chair. Licenses, consider a vote to approve an application for a 3 special one-day all-alcoholic beverage license, Falmouth Theater Guild performance of Picasso at Lapin Agile at Highfield Hall, 58 Highfield Drive, Falmouth, January 24th, 5th, 6th of 2025, January 31st, February 1 and 2, February 7 and 8. Service on Fridays and Saturdays from 6:30 to 10 p.m. Service on Sundays from 1 p.m. to 4:30. Administrative orders, consider to vote and accept a donation of a street clock from the Di Giovanni family, with our thanks.
I just have a question or two about how that roll out.
Would you like to hold it, Mr. Brown?
Yes, please.
Okay. Item number 2, consider to vote to accept a donation in the amount of $500 from the Roger and Kathy Marino Foundation to the Falmouth Fire and Rescue Department, certainly with our thanks. C, consider to vote and accept a donation in the amount of $1,000 from Marilyn and Harold March to the Falmouth Fire and Rescue Department. Again, thank you. Consider to vote to approve a letter of support for the submittal of the Open Space and Recreation Plan to the Mass Division of Conservation Services. Consider to vote to approve the 2025 seasonal population increase estimation form for submittal to the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission. Consider to approve the 2025 retail liquor licenses renewal certification for submittal to the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission. Consider to vote to approve the design and installation of a dedication plaque for the former longtime Parks Division employee, Harry Hill.
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent agenda with the exception of Mr. Brown's hold.
Okay, there is a motion to approve the consent agenda minus Administrative Order A. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Let's go back, Mr. Brown, to Administrative Orders A.
So just looking for a little clarification on how the process would roll out for the clock. I noticed that in the form that we had in our packet, there's several options for color, the type of clock numbering and so forth, and even the location. I'm wondering how will those be determined, and will we see that again when it comes, will it come back to us?
So, Madam Chair and Select Board Member Brown, we have a recommendation to utilize a matte black finish, I believe it is, to match, closely resemble the existing lamp posts in the downtown area along Main Street. So that was one of the considerations. Staff and I have been working with the family's attorney, and then the attorney was passing on some of the requests from the town and vice versa. But in terms of the color, we tried to include, I think it's in your packet, there's a list of specifications, and
Yeah.
I think it was the town of Norwood, I believe. It's going to be very similar in terms of the numbering on the face of the clock, as well as the color, that matte black finish, again, to resemble the existing lamp posts. Location, in working with DPW in Parks, specifically Jeremiah Pearson, we have a suggestion, it's a proposal right now, to place it in Peg Noonan Park, in close proximity to the existing sign. There's actually an illustration in your
Yeah, I
packet
saw
that
that.
shows it. So that kind of addresses the portion of your question in regards to the location. And then again, those are recommendations based upon a number of factors, most importantly, access to existing utilities. And in that specific location, there was some consideration given about putting it, on Village Green or right in front of Town Hall Square. The layout is pretty tight in front of Town Hall, so we kind of abandoned that proposal pretty quickly. But this is the proposal that's on the table right now, or the recommendation, I should say, for Peg Noonan Park, was after some discussion amongst staff.
And then does the Historic Commission weigh in at all on the elements? Or?
They would, and I don't think Town Planner is still here, but that will be something that the Historical Commission will have to weigh in. It's my understanding that when we were initially looking at Village Green, that was going to be certainly something we'd have to pass through.
Right. But
Right.
even Main Street is historic, right? So.
It is. So yeah, that will be a path and avenue that we're going to have to.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you. I release the hold. I move approval.
Hold on.
sorry.
Just following up, just our appreciation to the Di Giovanni family for their offer. I'm just, knowing that clock at TD Bank that never seems to work. I mean, is this a better design or a better system that it'll work, and if it doesn't, it can get fixed pretty quickly?
So that's a great question. So, Madam Chair and Select Board Member Muscali, so we did some vetting of this clock, and I can't speak to the one you're referencing over at Worcester Court, but over by the bank, but that is an example of a clock perhaps that lacks some kind of ongoing maintenance. Talked to DPW, and we feel very confident that with some just routine maintenance and upkeep, we can keep that. If the donation is accepted tonight, keep the clock running.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown, did you make
I
a
did.
motion to approve?
I moved approval of Administrative Order 2A, consider a vote to accept a donation of a street clock from the Di Giovanni family with thanks.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to get into our public hearings, and our first hearing is a fee hearing, and Jennifer Lincoln is here. Mr. Zelinski for the notice, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As provided under Chapter 119 of the Code of Falmouth, a public hearing will be held in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, January 6, 2025, at 6:45 p.m. to establish and promulgate fees which are effective as of January 1st, 2025, to be charged by town departments and agencies, except as provided by MGL School Department, Planning Board, Library, Town Clerk, Town Treasurer, and Collector of Taxes. The proposed changes in fees are listed below.
Welcome.
Hello, Jennifer Lincoln, Conservation Administrator. We're proposing on changing our fees. There are increases in the fees, but I feel that they accurately reflect the staff's time it takes to review a lot of our projects. Comparing them to our old fees is apples and oranges, because one of the reasons we're changing the fees is to bring the fees more in line with the state categories and activities, which is a request we've been hearing for the past year or two from our local engineering department, consulting community. So this is a way to just kind of bring them in line with the fees, so we are kind of, again, charging the categories are the same as the state, excuse me. Also, our advertising fee is really low, so we do need to raise that. And again, I just think they accurately reflect the time it's taking the staff to review the current projects, do the research for the old permits on the projects, do the site visits, compile the staff reports, and we really are striving to identify and work through all of the issues with the engineers and consulting community before it gets to the board, so that saves on the number of continuances a homeowner has to go through to get the project approved. We try to identify all that, work through that look at revised plans from the engineers and try to get that again, all something that the staff can support when it comes to our hearings.
Questions from the board on the fees?
I don't have questions. I think it was well explained in the packet, and I think they're moderate increases, and sounds like it's something that's needed.
Reviewing them appears reasonable. Ms. Goldstone?
Yeah, I guess I think the fees definitely appear reasonable. And just want to say, also really appreciate the amount of work that you and your staff do in reviewing these and that the Conservation Commission does. It's an enormous amount of work. I will just say, having recently reviewed a number of the other departments' fee schedules, I would love at some point to have a conversation about, I guess, how we set those fees and whether, in this case, it's to cover staff costs when we're doing, they're not exactly apples to oranges fees, but when we talk about things like beach permits, it's not necessarily to cover staff time. It's set on a different basis, and just thinking about how we set the fees, whether it is with the expectation that every department cover their department's costs, or whether there's a different means for actually setting fees across town departments.
Great point.
I will say, when I first looked at it, and I know how hard Jennifer works and her staff and the Conservation Commission, and how many meetings they actually handle, that I was, it seemed like very high increases relative to what they currently are. But I appreciate your explanation as to where you're coming from, and I'm in full support of the increases.
Any other comments from the board? Any public comment on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion amongst the board.
I would move approval of the request for the fee changes, and if there's a written motion, I'll read it.
I believe there is. I can read it for you, Mr.
Page 34.
Brown, if you'd like. Motion to approve the Conservation Commission's proposed 2025 fee schedule as presented.
That's my motion. Thank you.
Second
Madam
it.
Chair.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to our second public hearing. Mr. Zelinski for the notice, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Cravings Pizza and Ice Cream LLC, doing business as Simply Divine Pizza Company, has applied for a transfer of all alcoholic beverage restaurant license located at 261 Main Street, Unit A, Falmouth, Mass. Hereby on the above application will be held in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, January 6, 2024, 6:45 p.m. Comments may be sent to the selectboard@falmouthma.gov per order of the Select Board.
Thank you, Mr. Zelinski. Is there someone here for the applicant? Come right up. Thank you. Questions from the board on this application? Mr. Brown?
I had a couple of questions that I actually had answered by the town manager's office in advance of the meeting. One was actually the location, the manager's residence, and whether or not that would be a barrier to management. I understand you expect to attend full-time?
Yes.
Okay, because with liquor, it's important.
Yeah.
Could you just introduce yourself? So
Sure. Yeah. My name's Leah Lombardi. We're taking ownership, my business partner and I are taking ownership of Simply Divine on Main Street. I do reside in Boston, to your question, but I plan to be here at minimum 40 hours a week.
Okay, that's all I was concerned about because
Yeah.
it's important.
Other questions from the board about this application? Okay, seeing none. Any comments from the public regarding this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Discussion amongst the board.
I would move approval with congratulations on taking over. Let me
Second.
see if I can find the motion. Yep, thank you. I make a motion to approve the application for the transfer of an all-alcoholic beverages restaurant license, Cravings Pizza and Ice Cream, LLC, doing business as Simply Divine Pizza Co., 261 Main Street, Unit A, as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Good luck. Okay, we're going to move on to our third public hearing, and Mr. Zelinski for the notice, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 140, Section 183 Alpha of General Laws as amended by Chapter 299 of the Acts of 1926 and amendments thereto, that Main Street Gallery located at 189 Main Street, Mass. has applied for two one-day entertainment licenses for open mic night events to be held at Main Street Gallery, 189 Main Street on Thursday, January 9th, 2025, and Thursday, January 23rd at 2025, from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. A hearing on the above application will be held in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, 59 Town Hall Square, Falmouth, Mass. 02540 on Monday, January 6, 2025, at 6:45 p.m. Comments may be sent to selectboard@falmouthma.gov per order of the Select Board.
Thank you, Mr. Zelinski. And we have Mr. Fox, the applicant.
Yes, thank you. Jim Fox from Main Street Gallery and Real Estate. We found out that there's a need for the open mic. It had something been going on around town for various years. It once was in Woods Hole. It's been on Main Street. And a lot of musicians came to us and said, we have no place to go. So I have a gallery. We don't serve food or anything. We're basically closed at 5 or 6 o'clock at night. So it's a beautiful place. We run a lot of nonprofit events there. I've had the Democratic Party there. I've had many fundraisers for NOBSCA, and it's just a good, beautiful room to use, and they want to just have an open mic. We're going to have a band called the Familiars. They're going to start it off and manage it. They're going to charge the money. I'm just opening up the door and allowing them to use my space. They're going to take a $5 donation. It's really hard to get a band to play. Musicians like to make a couple $100 to come out at night, and if you have 3 or 4 people in a few hours, that's a lot of money. So it's really difficult to do. So I'm going to let them keep all the funds, and if it works these 2 nights, I'm going to consider coming back and do it every other Thursday night for the next year. I did run a big event this summer. I had the Stage Door Canteen, a 15-piece band play. I got a permit here for in my back parking lot. We had about 20 artists. I let them sell the art. It was very successful and no problem. So we have experience in running these events, and I think it'd be great for the town and great for the musicians of the town to do it. So it's we're going to start off these 2 every other Thursday night, and if it works, I'll be back really quickly to just have it continue on, because I don't want to keep paying these fees if it goes on. So we're going to do this for a test, and then I'll be back in a couple of weeks to, if it does, without any problem, just do it every other Thursday night, or just keep it going for Thursday nights. Yeah. It's early, too. It's over like 8:30, 9 o'clock. It starts real early, and it's over real early.
Yeah, it says 8 p.m., correct?
8 p.m., yeah.
Okay. Questions from the board about the application? Mr. Muscali?
Not a question necessarily, but a thank you to Mr. Fox and the Main Street Gallery. You have stepped in on a number of occasions and offered your very nice location for various groups, and I think it's a wonderful idea, and I'm certainly prepared to make a motion. Go ahead.
And it's, I think you've been really creative with the use of that space for several different things.
Oh,
So
it's
I
fun.
certainly applaud
It's a
your ideas.
beautiful space, and it has great acoustics. It was an old bank building. It's made of concrete. It's 15 feet high. The sound is just great. There's nothing like it on Main Street for music and sound. It is really beautiful.
That's great. Any other questions or comments from the board? Any comments from the public regarding this application? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Discussion amongst the board.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the application for 2 one-day entertainment licenses, Main Street Gallery, 189 Main Street, open mic nights on Thursday, January 9th, 2025, and Thursday, January 23rd, 2025, from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Have fun.
Okay, we're going to move into our fourth public hearing. Mr. Zelinski for the notice, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Notice is hereby given under MGL C 138 and 19 Bravo, 19 Charlie, and 64 MGL C 140 and 183 Alpha. Town of Falmouth Alcoholic Beverage Regulation 16 and Town of Falmouth Entertainment Regulation 13 as may be amended, that the Town of Falmouth Select Board will conduct a public hearing in accordance with said sections to determine if there are violations of the license to sell alcohol or entertainment license issued to Bad Martha's Farmers Brewery, LLC, located at 876 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth, Mass. As a result of the hearing, the Select Board may modify, suspend, or revoke the license to sell alcohol and/or the entertainment license. The hearing will be held in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, January 6, 2025, at 6:45 p.m. Licensing Board: Nancy Robbins Taylor, Edwin P. Zelinski II, Douglas C. Brown, Robert P. Muscali, Heather M.H. Goldstone.
Thank you, Mr. Zelinski, for the notice. I'll send it over to Mr. Renshaw, but do we also have a representative for the applicants? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief as the applicant's making his way to the podium. So over the course of the past several months, the Select Board office has received multiple complaints via email by residents of properties located in close proximity to Bad Martha's Brewery, LLC, regarding loud and excessive noise, often related to the exercise of Bad Martha's Brewery's entertainment license. And as Select Board may recall, this particular entertainment license was most recently issued last month, December 16th, 2024, and a copy of that's attached. Madam Chair and Select Board, during a hearing on a request for an extension of the premises conducted before the Select Board back on July 1st of 2024, the Select Board warned Bad Martha's Brewery, LLC, the representative that attended that night, concerning these loud and excessive noise complaints. Despite these warnings by the Select Board, the Board has continued to receive multiple complaints of possible violations of the conditions of the entertainment license. Specifically, it has been alleged that Bad Martha's Brewery hosted a Party Series 2024, which involved several outdoor disc jockeys and live performances during the month of October of 2024, and that those events created excessive noise that was heard by neighboring residents within their homes, causing significant disruption for these neighbors. Madam Chair and Select Board, the notice of violation and hearing was issued to Bad Martha's Brewery, LLC, back on December 19th, and a copy of that notice of violation and hearing is included in your packet. Between December 8th and December 10th of 2024, the Select Board office received 3 written complaints, again via email. Those complaints are attached to the packet this evening, from neighbors of Bad Martha's Brewery, LLC, again alleging that loud and excessive noise can regularly be heard, emanating from both within the establishment as well as from the outdoor entertainment area. Madam Chair and Board, if the Board determines, based upon the information presented at the public hearing tonight, that violations of Bad Martha Brewery, LLC entertainment license have occurred, the Select Board, as issuing authority, has the option of suspending, revoking, or otherwise modifying the establishment's entertainment license. And I'm going to ask the Assistant Town Manager to assist me. We have, again, one of the particular complainants submitted some audio files that I want the Select Board to hear as part of this hearing. And Peter, if you could, read the date for each.
Sure. So the first one I'm going to play is from November 17th.
Did you need it replayed?
What is it? I mean, what's the context of it?
So it's a video from across the street from the establishment, and you hear the traffic noise, and I don't know if you can hear it from where you are, but you can make out the music in the background.
This is from a home, a residence across the street in the 800 block.
Is it inside the home or outside? Is that
I believe it's out, it appears to be outside from what I can see in the video.
Yeah, from the audio, it's a video and audio recording. That particular recording appears to be from the outside.
Okay.
There's another one that you'll be hearing, dated, I believe, in August. It's from inside.
So this next one is August 1st. So in that one, you're hearing an individual's voice from the establishment.
Oh.
Play it one more time.
Is that a video also?
I believe the complainant listed in the email that this was a trivia, I understand, and a trivia event, and that's the background. You hear the gentleman, the person announcing the trivia.
I'm going to ask the audience to please not be talking while we're trying to listen to these videos. Thank you.
This last one is from July 28th, and the video shows a recording device just inside a screened window.
I think the speaker's on the bottom of that iPad.
This side?
No.
This side.
I think
Never figure it out. Here it is.
so you can hear a little more of that on that one.
In that particular example, as Peter mentioned, there was a decibel meter, some kind of a recording, a measurement device, and it was indicating, I don't know, Peter, if you can read that, the readings.
So it's 50 to 65 decibels. 50 to 65 decibels is what the meter is showing.
And that was from within inside a home.
Inside is
Correct?
inside the home with the screen open, so it's an open, essentially an open window.
And these were outside at Bad Martha's? These sounds were emanating from an outside or inside the premises, or we don't know?
I don't have knowledge of whether it was indoors or outdoors. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, good evening. Joshua Flanders, manager on record. I have with me Ralph Younger, GM of the Falmouth location, and Mia Benedetto, who's the COO of the company.
And how do you want to address the complaints against you for the noise?
I mean, I think we're here to listen to the board and to our neighbors, and, you know, if we're in the wrong, we're here to take responsibility, and if there are suggestions to move forward in a better way, you know, we're here to listen. I'd estimate we've had about 400 live music performances at the brewery since we opened, and I think the vast majority of those have been without issue. I don't believe we've ever actually gotten a noise violation from, like, the police department, a noise complaint, or had any other issues with the police station, so I think we've tried and been successful in operating a responsible business, but we're here to listen and do what we can. So, yeah.
Questions from the board?
Just a
Mr.
response,
Renshaw?
Madam
Yes.
Chair. There is, included in your packets, there is one police report, an incident report dated August 17th of 2024 at about 4:43 p.m., where an officer, a patrol unit was sent over to the establishment, made contact with a representative. The incident report's in your packets, and asked them to turn the music down. The officer indicated they could hear the music when they pulled into the parking lot and rolled their window down in their cruiser. So they could hear the music from inside the establishment.
Okay. And then the board has had the opportunity to review the emails as well. Questions or comments from the board? I'm going to start with Ms. Goldstone and then Mr. Muscali.
This is Mr. Muscali's question, but with regards to those, the videos and the recordings that we just heard, are you able to speak to whether those were indoor or outdoor events?
I'd wager they're probably outdoor events. Most of our live music is outdoor because that's where our customers sit. A lot of time if we schedule music indoors, they wouldn't be playing to anyone. We're definitely known for our outdoor seating, and that's kind of the draw for people. They're coming here in the summer during the great weather, and that's where they gravitate to.
When I look at the actual license, Building must be insulated that all entertainment, musical or otherwise, will not be heard outside of the building. Hours 1 to 6 p.m. Music at the brewery is meant to be background music. It should not be audible, but easily spoken over with low amplification. Any live outdoor music will be concluded by 6 p.m. Did we have any times on that music?
None of the three audio recordings were past 6 p.m. They were all prior to
Thank you.
6 p.m.
Okay. Okay, I'll go to Mr. Muscali and then over to Mr. Zelinski.
Just to follow up on Mr. Renshaw's statement, the police officer's report does say, upon my arrival, I drove up with all of my windows in my cruiser up and could not hear the music until I was directly in front of the establishment. So, but I guess my question really is, you're asking us, I'd rather turn the tables on you and ask you, what do you think you can do to alleviate the problem? It's a problem that we have heard about, that we've let you know, you've heard yourself. So why don't you tell us, or if you wouldn't mind, tell us what you think you can do to make sure these don't continue, or, you know.
Sure. I think the occasions where we have a DJ, I think those are louder occasions. We could definitely cut back on those, or even possibly just not schedule a DJ. I think it's just the equipment they bring, and it's more bass forward. I think that carries further. In most instances, we've moved the musicians so that they're facing away from the road. On a few, just the busier weekends where we have, say, a back-to-back performer, they have on occasion played facing the road because they have to set up and break down at the same time. So you have to have two different locations, and we only have one location where they can be facing inward. We could completely cut out that other location that we use so that they're never playing outward. I think those are both steps that we could take. As you know, we've already taken quite a few measures to try and cut back on this, and Ralph here will go around regularly and take decibel readings across the street and around the property, and he's never registered above that. I think we've been largely successful. It's just hard to have no sound whatsoever. I mean, sound carries open space. I think you can hear on those recordings that the cars are actually significantly louder that are just crossing in the street than the music is. So that just gives you an idea of, if a car passing by sounds out loud on the recording, that sound in general is carrying, and it's hard to eliminate, to have it so your customers can hear it, but your neighbor can't. It's challenging.
Go ahead, Mr. Zelinski.
I have a question for the chief operating officer. If you would step up.
Yeah, of course.
And your name?
Mia Benedetto.
Thank you.
How long have you been with the company, ma'am?
This is going to be my 6th year managing for the Edgartown location.
All right, so you're familiar with the previous times that we've addressed issues
Yes.
and listened to the things that were going to be done to address these issues. Do you have documentation stating, I know we have documentation of the amount of times you've been here, and we've tried to adjust that. Do you have that on record at where you keep your records?
I do, yes.
So you're aware?
Yes, I'm aware.
You have full context of what we're talking about?
No, exactly. And I just wanted to, if I'm here, to acknowledge and definitely deeply apologize for the disturbance that we've caused, not just for the town, but for the neighbors that are right across the street. And, just be able to course correct and find a solution just to be able to move forward and have a great 2025 season.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
In one of the written complaints, it claims that you have placed speakers outside the seating area. Is that correct?
In most instances, the musician will bring their own speaker. I think actually in every instance this year. So in terms of that, they have a speaker with them when they're performing outside.
Where's it placed? Is it outside of the seating area? Because this is one of the complaints that came in, that they could hear the music because the speakers were outside, and they could hear the music with their windows closed. And that was December 10th, 2024.
So generally, they're placed at our fire pit area, which is a seating area. It's a semicircle, and that would face in towards the other seating areas. So that's where the musician would be with the speaker.
Mr. Brown?
I'd just like to make an observation. I think that it was probably not the best plan to build the courtyard out on the street side. And I've mentioned this at previous meetings when we've had these things come up. and it's unfortunate because you've invested so much in your property and it's all out in the front. I think the building acts as an echo. Even if you turn the speakers toward the building, it's still bouncing off. It's physical property. I wish there was a way you could try to migrate toward the side. If it had been set up in the back, think how good it would be, because you got all that woods out there. I just think that's the long-term solution. In the short term, maybe you can put some type of angled partitions that will deflect the music in like a 45-degree angle, rather than projecting off that flat wooden wall. Because a flat wood wall, it's a bounce back. I think that's a big part of the problem.
We could definitely, research, see if there's a solution for putting some sort of sound barrier immediately behind to the sides of the musician. That's something we haven't tried, and that's a step we could take.
And I will say that the Cape Cod Winery had to take those kind of measures. They have a little stage that is backed to the street, and they put a little, like a band stage kind of a construction that they made. It seems to have helped. We haven't had any more complaints, and I've been over there and I've been kind of questioning whether it might be too loud, but apparently it's been okay because of that structure that they made.
Be happy to meet with them.
I just love to see some ideas, because these people are, these are not just, they're not all getting together and writing the same letter.
Mhm.
They come at different times, from different people, and it seems genuine that it seems like there really is a problem.
And there is a problem.
Yeah.
Ms. Goldstone, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I guess, I'm looking at the same language that you quoted, Madam Chair, that music is meant to be background music. Trivia night doesn't seem to necessarily fit with that. Live DJ, I'm hearing from you kinds of events where it doesn't seem like the music is intended to be background music, or the amplification doesn't seem intended to be background music. So there seems to be a disconnect there. And I agree also with what Mr. Brown said, that, wondering if there's a barrier that could be placed so that, you've already got that row of trees. There's already kind of a visual barrier there. If there could be a physical barrier that could stop some of that sound from moving out toward the street. And also, for that matter, wondering, if you've got a musician carrying their own speaker and it's one speaker, that one speaker to cover the whole area of Bad Martha's and all of your seating area obviously is going to have to be cranked up louder than if you had multiple speakers in those areas that could be at a lower volume. So it seems like there could be some physical mitigation to still be able to have music, have entertainment, but have it be at a lower volume and much more contained than what it currently is.
Mr. Zielinski?
That being said, you look at, it may look minor when you look into the file, that there's only a few emails and we have constituents, thousands of constituents among all of us, that when things like this happen, we're inundated with phone calls, or you're in the supermarket, which is what we signed on for, but they also have concerns. Those are the people that when are you going to do something about them? Or other businesses that we've held their feet to the fire with exactly the same thing, asking us, why are they any different than us? So when this gets opened, I have a suggestion when this gets opened up for discussion, but I just want you to know that it's not a small thing, even though the documentation may represent that. There's a human interaction that we all experience on situations like this a lot, all day, every day sometimes.
Yeah, we definitely understand that. I think there's another side of that coin, in that, we interact with a lot of our neighbors that really enjoy us as a business and enjoy the live music even. So I hear kind of that other side of the coin, the people that are really benefiting and kind of taking almost an opposite stance to that. But I understand your point, for sure.
And you agree that this isn't our first rodeo together. We've had
Right.
this discussion
Absolutely.
previously a few times.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. Brown?
Can we get a commitment to maybe hold off on the DJs and the loud productions and focus more on the background music until you get some kind of a plan together to mitigate this?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll look into the sound barriers, and we'll see if we can come up with a good solution.
Any other questions from the board? Any public comment on this application? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Discussion amongst the board.
I would, personally, I would make a motion, and I'm not making this motion unless somebody rebuts it, but I will, if nobody does, requiring Bad Martha's to design and install acoustic walls and barriers both inside and outside the establishment to eliminate the excessive noise as a start, to be amended by my colleagues if so be. So,
And I would add to that, that I would like, and I think it was Mr. Muscali that put the onus back on the applicant, which I completely agree with, that I'd like to see the applicant come back with a plan to address these concerns, a real concrete plan about what they're gonna do to keep this entertainment license going as is, because as Mr. Zelinski said, this is not our first rodeo, and I think you need to really hear us, and not only say that you hear us, but show us what you're gonna be doing about it. So I would take that and consider, you know, I don't know, I think we need to tune it up a little bit.
I mean, I feel like Mr. Zelinski's motion is a little too specific. I think that we should put the onus on the applicant to develop a plan, maybe consistent somewhat with what Doug was talking about as far as what needs to be done. But I think, I don't know if we could hold this open and let them come back with a plan. I don't know if we have to take action tonight, or we could just continue it, ask them to come back, explore it, as opposed to putting anything in place right now and then have to deal with it again, maybe hear something concrete from the applicant and just hold off on a decision tonight.
Do we want, oh, go ahead.
I was
Mr.
just going to
Johnston-Straub?
make a process suggestion.
Go ahead.
So it sounds like the board, you know, wants action on this issue, and along the lines of what Mr. Muscali was suggesting, maybe what you do tonight is find that there has been a violation of the license and direct the applicant to come back with solutions and continue the hearing to a date certain so that the applicant can come back and say, here are the things that we're proposing to do to mitigate the issue.
And what does their license look like during that time where they come back with a plan, which I think should include some of what Mr. Zelinski has suggested? I think that could be written into their plan. What happens, Mr. Johnston-Straub, between now and then?
So
License stays the same, or do we modify until that plan comes back?
yeah, I would think because you don't have a specific solution, you would not change the license. Now, the board can certainly consider a suspension of the license as a disciplinary matter in the interim. You know, you could suspend the entertainment license for, you know, until the date of the next hearing, for example. So that would not shut the business down, but their entertainment license could be suspended for that period of time. I'm just offering, I'm not saying that's the right answer.
Right.
That's
Just
just
a
the kind of thing
suggestion.
you might consider.
We do have a verbal commitment from the manager to reduce the, you know, eliminate the DJ, which I think is probably a bad idea for having in that location anyway. And I think that's a good suggestion to find that there is a violation, because we do, even though it's not really that impressive, we do have these records, and that would be a path forward to get a resolution.
So you would just say that modify it so that they could not have DJs moving forward at this
I would go with
point?
the voluntary commitment from the manager rather than imposing a change in the license. I'm hesitant to take away their outdoor entertainment when it's the whole place is built for outdoors. And we've allowed it,
But we've also been here before, and
Yeah.
I
Running
guess
out of rope.
that's the only place I'm getting stuck, Mr. Brown, to be perfectly honest, is we've been here before, and I'm wondering if it's wise to just take the verbal, this is what we'll do. I'm a little hesitant on that. Go ahead, Ms. Goldstone.
Two questions, and Madam Chair, I know we closed the hearing, may I ask a question of the applicant?
You know, reopen it?
I'd have to
Reopen.
reopen the
Reopen
hearing.
for that?
We'd have to reopen the
Okay.
hearing.
Well, a question to town manager, assistant town manager. Are we able to, you know, what you were recommending was a finding of a violation and a request for a mitigation plan, can we impose a deadline on that? Because I think I'm not comfortable with just a verbal, we'll do this, and I'm not comfortable with no suspension and no deadline, because that just leaves it too open-ended, right? So I think if we're going to leave the license as is in the interim, then I would like to see a deadline by which we need to see a mitigation plan, and well in advance, certainly, of the spring and summer season.
I think that's what Mr. Johnson-Staub was suggesting.
And I'm
Mr.
in agreement
Muscali?
with that. I'm hesitant to suspend their license at this point for the reasons that Doug mentioned. I mean, it is part of their business plan. I think if we find the violation, which I think there's adequate proof that there have been violations, and just, hold off on any sanction until we see a mitigation plan, a date certain, whether it's the 27th, which is our next meeting, or sometime in February. I imagine there's not going to be a whole lot of outdoor entertainment in January anyway. So that's where I would be leaning with it.
And I understand
Motion.
that. I'm just concerned that without taking some kind of action, it prolongs it. And I think that they have been in front of us before. We have spoken about this before. And so I'm a little bit uncomfortable. I love the idea of a deadline for the mitigation plan, but to say we'll give you a deadline with the mitigation plan with nothing to say, this is not okay. The way you've conducted your business right now is not okay. So I think we need to have something that goes along with the deadline for the mitigation plan. That's my own thought. Mr. Brown?
If we have the violation and continue to a date certain, that is a deadline. And the hearing is still in play.
Right, but the other piece, in my mind, is not satisfied. That we have found a violation, and all we're saying is we need a mitigation plan by this date, because that's when we're going to hold the hearing. So I'm a little uncomfortable with that.
All right.
So, Madam Chair, you may want to do something in the interim. My thought was that implicitly you're continuing the hearing. You found, tonight, you would potentially be finding a violation and then continuing the hearing. So implicit is, depending on what you hear back at that continued hearing, at that point you could impose discipline. And depending on what you hear, it might be a suspension, revocation, alteration of the license. All of those options outlined in the town manager's memo are open to you at the date of the continued hearing.
And not to mention, while that's taking place, they're still under the same rules that they are under now. So if there are further violations, or it's just going to compound our decision when you come back.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay,
Right, I was going to make that point. I mean, if somebody complains between now and the date certain, then obviously that's going to, have a big impact on what the ultimate decision is, so.
Can I just add my 2 cents?
please.
So you've already closed the hearing. You'd have to open it again to be able to continue it.
Okay,
I don't recommend doing that. I think you should close the hearing, keep the hearing closed, and you can gain the accountability that you're looking for by placing a condition on the license as a result of the violation. And the condition that you place on the license would be for them to come back periodically to give you the updates. So I do have a concern about continuing the hearing where the only reason you're continuing it is to get more information about compliance, when you're leaving this compliance part of it in too much of an amorphous way. What is the compliance that you're asking for? Is it sound mitigation? Is it, you're just asking them to come up with some sort of plan to help with this? But if that's why you want to continue the hearing, it's really hard for them to comply. They're just going to come up with something, some sort of plan. Instead, I recommend that you go ahead and close the hearing, place a condition that says that they have to come back and talk to you and give you updates, and so that they can give you hard progress about where they're going and what they're going to do. And that way, that just stays that stays attached to the license. You don't have to renotice a hearing. You don't have to publish it. It's just part of their doing business in order to retain the entertainment license.
I would agree with you more, if I may, if this wasn't the third or fourth time, that sometimes people just don't either want to get it or get it.
Well, the
We
other
had
thing,
the same situation down the street where we did almost exactly what we gave them every benefit of the doubt. We told them what we wanted done. They did it, came back, and then reported on it, and we could document and prove progress as that went. I don't want to leave this any more ambiguous than it already is, because every time I come here, I feel like it's Groundhog Day with the same thing. You know, I get what you're saying process-wise. Personally, I'm tired of having this same discussion with the same set of excuses. They know what we want from them, and they know what they have to do to comply. It shouldn't be this hard. I don't think that there should be punitive, but I think that there should be a date certain where they come back with some real solutions finally. That's my opinion.
so I do have a concern about the process that you've laid
then we
out, so
would-
I do hope you hear me on that part. Something, though, that I think you should take them up on, as also another part of their condition, is they said they'd do away with the DJ nights. I think you accept that offer and also make that a part of the condition.
But we could open the meeting, we could reopen the hearing, and then basically find the violation and continue the hearing going forward for them to come back with a plan, right?
Well,
I mean,
we don't need to. She just explained, if I could, she just explained, we don't need to do that. We can set conditions and say, please come back in 30 days and tell us what you're gonna do, and then tell us how long it's gonna take, and we can either say yes or no.
I'd agree with that.
I would too, and it wouldn't just be a one-shot deal, correct?
Right.
It would be,
It's a
they would have to do
flexible
check-ins.
thing. Maybe they'll say,
Yep.
we can do this and we can do that, and we'll say, maybe that's okay, or maybe we'll say, oh, could you just do a little more? I don't know. It's kind of subjective, but I think they should have, could I ask, do you think 30 days is adequate to come up with a plan?
We're close.
I'm not sure we can
Okay,
ask them.
Okay.
I think they've shown they're willing to be collaborative and work with you. They've come up with some ideas already, and now is the opportunity to, put something on a calendar for 30 days, have them come back.
Okay,
All right, could we, if I may,
go ahead.
if that was part of our findings tonight, described by all of us, that they could make their reports to the town manager's office, and then he could report as part of his reporting the progress that's being made. In the event we don't get any more complaints or any more triggering reports that would cause us more agitation, for lack of a better term.
You could also put as a condition on the entertainment license, that what you've just outlined would be conditioned upon no further complaints. And if there are complaints, then it triggers another in-person appearance.
I like that. Go ahead.
Update to me, and certainly update to the town manager's office, to me implies that we're taking a passive role in just receiving those updates. But what I've heard, I think, from others on the board is a desire to actually see it and approve a plan moving forward, or have some kind of approval over what we're hearing from Bad Martha's. So I guess,
That could be through direction of the town manager, who reports to us. Get his report, instruct him on what we want him to do, and not have to reopen a case because there's only a couple more times this is gonna go down before something else happens.
That would simplify it, because then they could maybe get an acoustic engineer or somebody who's gonna design something, they could email that over to Diane, and,
Good with modifying the
you know,
plan.
that could be handled by the
I
town
would
manager.
also, given the amount of back and forth and what could be involved in generating an earnest mitigation plan, maybe suggest every 6 weeks instead of every 30 days. 30 days seems like an awfully quick turnaround to come up with a significant sound mitigation plan, and filing monthly updates.
Or maybe the 30-day point, they just say, we've engaged this engineer and this designer, and we have ideas, we're not done yet, but it's still progress. I mean, it doesn't have to be completely
It doesn't have to be
constructed,
completed, I see what you're saying.
just has to.
But it's an update of what
we have
they've
to
done
just
up to this
continue to
point.
get a timeline of when it's gonna happen, and we don't really want it on our agenda every week.
So let me do this then.
Okay.
and you guys can amend this or tear it apart, because I'm done talking about this, to require Bad Martha's to design and install acoustic walls, barriers, both inside and outside, to eliminate excessive noise, come up with a plan and report to us every 6 weeks.
I'm not sure about the instructing them as to what to
It
build.
was a motion, Doug. If I don't get a second, then you can do something with it. But
Okay.
we can only throw this around for so long and convolute it even more.
My point is, I agree with the second part of that motion as to what needs to, what the goal is. I'm just not sure that including all of that specificity.
They've already agreed to it.
Well,
They
not
already
the
said they'd
acoustic
put up
wall.
some.
Well, something.
Right.
I mean, I, just a plan to, whatever the second part of your motion was, if you want to reread it for me.
To eliminate excessive noise and report back to us every 6 weeks with a plan of their progress.
Right.
And that's without,
So could we leave that without the specificity of the walls?
if you make the motion.
Of what the plan's gonna look like, is
Exactly,
what you're
that's
saying.
my only point, that they come back with, with a plan to, go ahead,
So I
Mike,
would-
you have.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I understand. Come back to the select board, or you want them to come back and report to me?
I'm
That's what I
fine with
heard.
it coming back to you, and
Just
you
wanna make
let
sure.
us know what the process is, or progress is.
I would agree with that. However, I also would think about, Attorney O'Keefe mentioned conditioning the license
Yep.
moving forward. I'd like to see that in the motion, that the license is conditioned. It was their idea to eliminate the DJs, and let's see if that works.
It's been a proportion of the complaints, and the representative indicated that he believed that the DJ perhaps was associated with a lot of the complaints. I would agree. So conditioning
Let's
the
condition the
license, the representative offered to remove the DJ, so I think that would be a great step forward.
I agree. And also, do we need to vote that we have found a violation? So I
So
would-
two motions, I think, right? We'll make a motion with respect to the violation, get that taken care of, and then craft the motion to include all that we spoke
Yes.
about. So I'll make a motion that the board finds that there has been a violation. Help me here.
Pads are slow.
I can get it, hold on a second.
Modification of the existing entertainment
Well,
license?
I would suggest a motion that there has been a violation of the entertainment license and licenses to sell alcohol issued to Bad Martha's Brewery LLC.
Was it just the entertainment license?
Yes.
Why do we implicate the alcohol license?
So that was part of the notice in case this went poorly.
So we're gonna
Because
eliminate the
a violation of the entertainment license can also be a violation of the license to sell alcohol. Here, where the licensees have been so willing to work with the board, I would recommend only finding a violation of the entertainment license.
Exactly, yep.
Yes. Okay, so do we have that? Go
So,
ahead.
making a motion that the select board makes a determination that there has been a violation of the entertainment license on the complaints presented to it.
Okay,
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Second motion?
You want me to try it? Or are you going to try it?
Go get them.
Okay, move to add a condition to Bad Martha's entertainment license, that they develop a plan for physical sound mitigation and modified programming to eliminate noise violations and provide updates on said plan to the town manager's office every 6 weeks.
I'll second.
And in the interim,
And to remove DJ. right?
Yes.
And
That was
to-
the modified programming.
Yes. Okay.
But,
I'll second it, Madam Chair.
does that sound like adequate language?
Is that?
That sounds great.
Need more
Great.
specificity.
Okay, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you,
You have
Heather.
your work cut out for you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move into business, and we have an update on lead pipe assessment and discussion on the timeline for next steps, and we have our water superintendent, Matt Lannon, to lead us through this.
don't have anything in our packet on this, right? We didn't get anything. Was there anything? I don't think so.
Oh, there's
Yeah, just that.
what your pipe looks
Yeah,
like
yeah, that
and
was it.
some numbers.
Yeah. Thank you.
Got us moving.
Do you want to wait till the full select board's back, or?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. Matthew Lannon, Falmouth Water Superintendent, for those that know me. Just over a year ago, when I started this position, the EPA and the Mass DEP was inquiring about having each community have their own master list of all service line materials. And in doing so, since that time, we've gone through just about 23,000 water service cards and ties and as-built to identify anything we had on record, so we can produce that list. That list was due October 16th of 2024. And since then, we've only captured about 7,000 water services from the water main to inside of the home. Leading up to this was obviously Flint, Michigan's issue with their poor water quality in their water system, and the Safe Drinking Water Act of 1974, which was to remove all the lead out of the water system.
Could you, excuse me, but could you explain when you say what you've done with the 7,000, what actually was it that you did?
I was getting to that. Yeah.
Okay. All
So,
right.
well, here, let me explain this part. So, from what everybody sees out in the...
Gotta go to the mic.
From what everybody sees when they walk down the street, all they see is a little circle on the street. And that is the shutoffs for the water mains and for the curb stops to each property. They don't see anything 5 feet below the grade. So it's really hard to conceptually understand what you're looking at when you're trying to explain to people what your service material is made of. So we have water mains that are from the size of 2-inch up to 24 inches, and transmission mains, which are huge, our largest ones. Then we have our corporation, which taps into the water main for each domestic and commercial property. Then we have a service line material, which in this case is copper, and then we have our curb stop shutoff. The curb stop shutoff is the way we isolate from outside of the home if there's an emergency, if their line freezes, and above ground all you see is a little circle. We put a key in the ground, and that turns this to the off position so no water is flowing through the foundation of the home. Inside of the foundation line, we have your service line with your meter, where we actually register all the water you use, and we submit you a bill each semi-annual or each season. What we're trying to identify specifically is this portion of the water service, which was the town-owned side, and this portion of the water services, which is from the shutoff valve to the meter. We're looking for right here through the foundation what that material is. In 1899, when they started doing all these record drawings, we only took down what the town owned, which is this small portion from the water main to that shutoff. We only have 900 out of 22,000+ that we don't have a record for the town portion of the water material. However, we do not have 14,000 of the service materials from the shutoff through the foundation. And it's very challenging because 30% of our community is gone for the wintertime. So in doing so, this past summer, we submitted just over 13,000 surveys to ask the community to submit what their service line material was to basically an email that the town of Falmouth created with our engineering firm Tater and Howard. Out of that, we only got 700 responses. Between the summer and the fall, when the deadline was due, we still had 14,000 unknowns. Out of the 14,000 unknowns, we only had 5 identified lead service lines in the entire town. I think most of the lead that was used in the state of Massachusetts was mostly in the greater Boston area. There's very little lead on the Cape. Out of those 5, we only have 1 home in the entire town we know that has lead, and they're already going to remove that come by the springtime. So we'll have no lead left in the town that we know of. We also have 13 galvanized water services, which are a little more complicated because they could be on the homeowner side, and we haven't identified them yet. There's no funding from the federal government yet for people to just go and renew their service lines, and it's a $20,000 expense depending on the material in the ground and all these other prerequisites. But right now with the service line, for a while, lead was used as a bending point from the water main to the water service, and that's where it turned into galvanized iron. And the lead was used so when the frost heaves up and down, the water service doesn't break in the winter season, and then all of a sudden we get that quick 60-degree day. That's usually when we get the breaks in our water services. So, but anything downstream of lead, it adheres to galvanized iron, and that's why they want galvanized iron removed as well.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
All the backflow prevention devices that are inside the foundations, are any of those have lead fittings inside the foundation?
They shouldn't. Nope. That's all mandated to have no lead and brass.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, ma'am.
Out of the 14,000 we don't know remaining are unknown. Your house could have been built in 2020, but we didn't have a record drawing from the curb stop right here into the home, which automatically triggers that notification to that homeowner. So it's right now we're just basically identifying all of these services we can through our website. We're going to start doing surveys soon, and right now we've created a website with Tate and Howard, so bear with me. So this is our interactive GIS for any service line material, and you can type in your property address, and it will tell you if you have a lead status unknown, a non-lead service, a galvanized requiring replacement, or you have a lead service. It's very challenging to just do a survey, so we decided that we're going to move forward and survey the town with 8 villages. So we're going to start with the Woods Hole Village, and we're going to submit a letter come the spring. And those letters are right here if you guys want to pass them out for the future, but you have 2 options. All these homeowners and businesses are going to receive this letter. They can either update the QR code, take a picture of their water service coming through their foundation right here, and send it into our website. We'll identify it. If we can't identify it, we're going to have Tate and Howard come in free of charge on their behalf to identify it, to keep updating our inventory. Alternatively, if we have a home that has a crawl space, or someone can't get down the steps because they're elderly, we're scheduling free in-person surveys through our or through our DPW administration, and also through Tate and Howard come the springtime. So it's very involving, and we're hoping to have this all completed within 8 years, even though there's a 10-year deadline. We're also working with a wastewater division because they have a Vactor, so we can isolate a small hole and suck out just right at the curb stop to identify both the town-owned side and the property side and take the whole service out. Now, just to be clear, if we know the homeowner side and it's plastic, but we don't have the identification material of the town side, that triggers the notification still. So there's a lot of complexities to the issue, but we've been working diligently for the last year doing this, and we're making great progress. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them.
Questions? Mr. Brown?
I think that the letters can cause confusion for people.
They do, but you are not allowed to alter any of the forms that come from DEP. You can only add additional things that say, if you'd like to seek further questions, please contact this person. Most of the letters themselves that DEP drafts, you can't touch them.
You can't even write, "Don't be alarmed, contact us with
I wish.
questions."
I wish. We got about 1,000 phone calls in the first 2 weeks of this letter getting sent out.
Yeah.
So,
But very few responses.
Very few responses, yes.
Just phone calls.
Yes.
Right.
Any other questions from the board? Go ahead.
I'm curious about the low response rate. Do you have a sense of whether it was just kind of those 1,000 people called you, they were really concerned, they got their concerns allayed, and then didn't bother to complete the survey? Or is it more that, like, this is kind of difficult to figure out, to go to your basement and figure out what the material is and how to
Correct. I
share
mean,
that info?
the instructions that we submitted to everyone that had an unknown service is very clear. But the QR code we found is not successful with certain age groups. And obviously not everyone has a smartphone, not everyone has internet access, so trying to just click on a QR code to get you to a website, we found always doesn't benefit everybody. So having the opportunity to call and say, hey, listen, I have a flip phone, you know, can someone come and survey it? I put in an email to my administration. Our administration schedules and coordinates with that person. We come in and survey the property. But, you know, we have a 34,000 person population in the winter, but 100,000 in the summer. So, you know, it's challenging. And not everybody necessarily has the same mailing address as the billing address. And then we have people changing, you know, home ownership all the time. So we're working with the assessor's department to try and get the updated master list from our billing versus the people that are purchasing the homes. And some people just don't care and throw it away like the bill they get, so.
Is there a required certification or demonstration of skill level to go out and help a homeowner identify what their line is?
Very minimal.
I mean, I'm thinking literally like high schoolers are really good with QR codes.
Yeah.
Could this be a summer job opportunity or something to have an army of young people surveying
I love
our,
your thinking.
our service lines?
Yeah, I mean, the trickiest part is like, you know, where I grew up and this happened often, was people would show up at your door and say, oh, I'm a member of the Falmouth, you know, water department. Two guys would show up. One guy would go downstairs and pretend he was working the meter. The other guy was robbing the house. So we got to be very careful and, you know, and make sure that how we plan things like that, having seasonal help, it happens, and it has happened. So down the road, if we were to do that, we'd probably have to, you know, advertise for an additional position and you know, see if that will work. But it's a very easy task to do if you can gain access to the basement of a home.
I was going to suggest volunteers, but I guess that's probably tricky too, right? This is what you
Yeah.
just mentioned. You're in people's homes.
Yeah, and they need to have some kind of identification
Yeah.
badge before they get in my house.
Yeah.
Paranoid as I am.
Not to paranoid anybody, but that's where we stand. And you know, if you ever to have any questions, just push them off to my department, and we'll be more than happy to help any of the residents of the businesses out.
Okay. Thank you. Keep
Any
passing these out.
any other questions or comments from the board? Great, thank you so much for the update.
3 seconds to spare.
3 seconds to spare. Okay,
You know, this is $1,000 worth of brass.
I love that.
Wow,
I think
that's a great,
really cool.
it's a great prop you have there.
Yeah.
Thank you to my department for making it. I couldn't do that.
So when your windows are broken in your car in the morning,
There you go.
it was Nancy.
Okay, not me. I'll have my badge on. Okay, we're going to go to business number 2. Consider a vote to sign a statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority regarding renovations to the Lawrence School, authorizing the school superintendent to submit the SOI. Now, I just want to preface this with a couple of comments. Firstly, Massachusetts School Building Authority is a competitive grant which provides reimbursement of a minimum of 31% with potential for a higher rate of reimbursement based on factors related to demographics, energy efficiency, renovation and maintenance practices, among other factors. The vote that we take tonight does not commit the town or the school committee to filing an application for MSBA funds, nor does it commit the town to funding the design and construction of renovations at the Lawrence School. This vote does not represent an endorsement of any restructuring of Falmouth schools or a change in the use of the Lawrence School. This vote is solely an endorsement of the school department's plan to consider submitting a future application for grant funds to renovate the Lawrence School. I'm prefacing your comments because it's only about the statement of interest. We are not going to discuss anything else that the school is considering, not considering, and I just want to be very, very clear that I'm going to limit conversation on this, and I'm going to limit it to what is on the agenda for the select board to vote. Thank you.
Could I clarify one thing too, also,
Go
before
ahead.
we get started? I think the reason that this is before the select board is that the select board is the custodian of all town-owned buildings, correct? And that's why the school superintendent and the committee needs to come to the select board to get sort of an approval to do work on the property. So I just wanted to kind of
It's
make sure that that
specifically a requirement of the school building.
It is MSBA's requirement
Yeah.
to have a vote from this board to support the school committee moving forward with an application. Whether they do or not remains to be seen.
Right.
But right now, that is all that we are voting on. Dr. Dorr?
Good
Mr.
evening, thank you. I'm Lori Durr, I'm the superintendent of Falmouth Public Schools, and I'm here with Paul Dart, the Director of Finance and Operations. We are here just to ask for support on submitting the application to MSBA. It just puts our name in the queue and allows us to continue. On December 10th of 2024, the school committee voted unanimously to submit this application, and then the second step is to come to you. Through the process, we've had strong community and educator support for this application to start exploring the renovation of the Lawrence School. Paul?
Yes, I echo what the chair has already mentioned, that this is literally a statement of support to submit an application. It is points down the road that the board would be asked to vote yea or nay on a actual renovation project.
Any questions? Ms. Goldstone?
So I attended one of the public sessions a couple of months ago. It was pretty clear from both of yourselves and Lawrence Principal Tom Bushy that pretty much regardless of the use of that building, that some sort of renovation is desired given the age of the building. And it's a multi-year, I think 8-year process estimated from now till when that would be completed. At what point in that, how many years are we from having something that would, if we do the statement of interest now, how many years are we from having more specifics of design or what that renovation would look like?
So the application process with the MSBA would take place, we'd submit by April 1st, roughly. They would make a decision in December. Thereafter, we now need to make certain deliverables to the MSBA, which is our maintenance program, our academic program, our projections of enrollment. At that point, after following that, sometime in '26, we'd then come to you for the first funding, which would be around $2 million. At that point, that then hires the architects, the project manager, and so on, and the actual design phase starts to begin. And then you can see that progress develop over time. Several years later, 28, you're going to be, as we progress here, the town would be taking a vote on the project, the full project dollar cost. And following that, and the construction would begin, the final architectural designs would begin, and then construction would be 2 years. That would take us to 2032. So those are the two votes that I mentioned would be 26 and then 28.
I'm going to go with Mr. Muscali and then Mr. Brown.
Assuming the vote tonight is to sign the SOI, what happens next? What do you do next? What's going to happen?
So we the applications forms, the statement of interest questionnaire has been released just recently by the MSBA. We fill out that. We do a building assessment. We've hired Habib and Associates to look at the building from everything from the plant, the plumbing, which is the original plumbing from 1953, the electrical wiring of the building, again, original from 1953. All the components of the building will be assessed by them, roof structures, et cetera. Then they go on to assess the classroom components. So they'll look at the average classroom size, does it meet current teaching standards and minimal requirements of the MSBA, and so on. So they will tell you, they will make the case eventually to the MSBA, here are the reasons why this building should be renovated.
There was a question that came up in an email that we received about the difference between the MSBA's digging into the Lawrence School and Mr. Renshaw's looking at all public buildings. I just want to be really clear that when you're, and correct me if I'm wrong, the assessment that you'll be having done on all the public buildings is not the same as what MSBA will be doing and what that is going to look like. That is far more detailed.
Yeah.
They get right into everything in that building, and it's
Correct.
different from what you're doing.
That is correct.
Okay, I just want to make that comment. There, it's like apples and oranges.
So just a follow-up, so what you're looking for from the board is agreement on the SOI so that you can proceed to the next step.
That's right.
And if we don't do it now, and you wouldn't start the assessment,
Well,
I mean, am I correct?
yeah, that's correct. And let me just say, the MSBA looks for community support of the vote of the school committee, the vote of the select board, and so that's part of the signal that we give them in submitting an SOI. So, the criteria for applying for a building renovation is the age of the building, in which case we're 1953. The average project that more recently been funded by the MSBA has been in the 1970s, so that's a plus in our category. The next criteria is, has the MSBA funded recently a project for the district? In our case, they have not for a core renovation. So that too is in our favor. Then the next criteria would be, what's the community support? What's the vote of the select board? What's the vote of the school committee and so on?
So, I mean, from where I'm coming from, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer that we proceed. That being said, there's obviously been a lot of discussion about navigating the future, and I understand what you're,
Yes, we're not gonna- yep.
saying.
not
But
gonna go
this, from my perspective, this is the first time that it's really come to the select board for any decision or any action. And we have gotten some emails, some of them on point and some of them admittedly not on point. So my initial reaction was, okay, this is probably something that we should be looking at. Do we need to do it tonight? Or do we have an opportunity to reflect on some of the emails that we received over the past couple of days before we decide whether or not to go forward? That's where I'm coming
I think this
from.
basically gets the district's name in the queue. And I think to kick it down 2 more weeks is going to interrupt the timeline for the district. So while I hear what you're saying, I think that the statement of interest is about renovating Lawrence and allowing the district to put their names in the queue. Ms.
Can I
Goldstone?
just put that question actually to Dr. Durr and Mr. Dyer? In terms of timeline, is there a deadline for submitting the statement of interest? And is this one of those once-a-year submission sorts of?
That's right. The hard deadline for them is April 12th. We set an internal deadline of March 31st that you see on the vote form. But the hard deadline is April 12th. If you miss that, then you're waiting another year.
I mean, I guess what I'm thinking is, I mean, I hear you in terms of taking a little bit more time to contemplate it. I'm not sure how much more information we would have in 2 weeks to consider this in 2 weeks. And so the question in my mind comes down to, is it this year or next year? Right? Like,
And where you are
All right.
in line when you request grant money.
How long will it take, just one more question, how long will it take for you to put everything together to meet that March deadline?
It's very extensive. The application itself is very extensive, and the study that goes along, the engineering study that goes along with it is very extensive. So
they've established that they need 2 months to get this together. So
That's the question
I
I
do
was-
also want to just state, there's no guarantee that we might get accepted in the first round. Often it depends on the number of applications. Yes, as Paul said, we have a strong, as we're trying to state why Lawrence needs renovation, I think it's strong, but we also don't know how many other applications there'll be. This could be, we may be reapplying for a year, 2 years, 3 years before we might even get accepted. So the longer we wait to put in and get in the queue so they know that we're interested just puts us down the road. This just, to me, this first year signals that we're interested. Maybe we'll get accepted, maybe we won't, but at least it gets us in and they know that the Falmouth is interested in this.
So you think 2 months is what you need?
2
Maybe
months
2
for
months.
Habib
Yeah,
to do the
that you need,
assessment.
right.
Yes, and so
Mr. Brown?
I have a question about the process of working with the MSBA, and say we've got an idea that the cost might be 135 million, I guess, right now, but that's just a ballpark, right?
that's very, we
I
would not
know
know
it's,
that now.
it's
Yeah.
way too early to
Way
say.
too early.
But is there some sort of a commitment, do we get funds from them for the survey as well? Is that the initial, or do we have to pay
Not
for
for
that?
the initial work not for the building assessment that we're doing right now.
So we pay out of
We
pocket
pay
for,
out of pocket for that.
okay.
The funding that, the $2 million funding that we would come to would help pay for the owner's project manager and the architect once we're accepted into the project. That's where they come in and start to help with that cost.
Okay.
But not at this stage.
And so I'm curious about when does a commitment come along? Do we know the price tag of the renovation before we commit? Or are we entering a process where we're committing to a project and we don't really know the cost? Is that a possible scenario?
Not at this stage. You won't be able to get the, sort of the hard estimates until the architects are formally hired to start the design of the project.
And that's out of our pockets?
Well, the $2 million that I mentioned, part of that will be paid by the MSBA. It's part of their whole program, and the rest is part of the town. But then you go through sort of the initial schematic design of the building during that side. During that time, the cost development of the building, of the renovation will become clearer. But
And-
it's not right now.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, do we get a handle on what this budget is going to be before we commit? Or are we committing to a process that locks us in? I'm just curious if
This stage?
You just
No,
can't-
not this stage,
Not at
but
this stage.
Right.
what we're leading to. I'm just trying to understand the
I don't know
process
that
a
we
little
would
bit.
have if I understand you, we won't know, if we get into the program and we come back for the 2 million and ask for that, I don't know that we would have a number at that point. I think that's what that assessment will tell us. It would be after that stage that we would actually know what a renovation would cost.
And if it's too much, we can say we're going to
You
hold
just
off?
don't- Absolutely.
Absolutely.
There's lots of entry points to say, no, it's too much, we can't move forward.
Okay,
We don't.
And
That
the
was my
school can
question.
always back out of
Yeah,
their
at
submission.
any
So,
point.
right now, it's just simply supporting whether we want to sign a statement of interest to let them at least have MSBA look at them and see if they get them in the queue.
Yeah, I understand that what we're doing today. I just wanted to
Yeah.
understand the process a little more.
No, I get it. It's money.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Kirk, where are you? Would you like to speak? You had asked if you could speak.
Hi, my name is Paul Kirk. I will keep everything very limited to the scope. I understand that this letter doesn't lock us into anything and there's really no risk. But I just feel like I couldn't come here without really stating my apprehension, not necessarily with the project, but the current leadership of the project and the current leadership of our school system going into this. So, again, tonight may not be a thing that's worth putting off, but I just feel like I need to express my concern over moving forward based on how everything else has gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk. Would anyone else like to make a comment before I close it and bring it back to the board?
Can I ask a question?
You may come up here and ask a question. Just say your name.
Raquel Russell.
Thank you.
Hi. I just have a question regarding the funding for the building assessment that's going to be required to go along with the statement of interest and how those funds were procured. Like who's paying for Mr. Dott stated at the school committee meeting that this assessment will cost $132,000.
So I'd just like to know how that money was procured.
Thank you, and I would ask Mr. Dart to address that question.
Last year in April, I believe it was April, the town voted $500,000 to do, as part of that building assessments for townwide buildings. $132,000 of that fund will be used for this building assessment. So it's part of the town fund.
Okay. I see Mr. Johnson Staub and Mr. Renshaw.
Yes,
Correct?
we discussed that with Mr. Dart.
Okay.
And using those article funds, the project, all of the school buildings were always going to be a focus of that more general building evaluation, comprehensive building evaluation. But we discussed the use of 132,000 of that 500,000, as Mr. Dart indicated, is applicable and eligible for use. So yes, 132,000 of that 500 is going to be applied towards this firm who specializes in these more in-depth, obviously, evaluations, much more in-depth than what Brightly, the company that we retained, is going to do for all of the town buildings.
So,
Right,
is
go
it
ahead.
fair to say that when you came up with your $500,000 budget, if you will, you expected that there would be a significant part of that would go towards the Lawrence School?
So honestly, Madam Chair and Select Board Member Muscali, at that time, as we were preparing that article, we wanted to make sure, we had done some initial discussions with firms. There's a handful that do the general comprehensive building condition index studies. That 500,000 was based on some of the quotes that we received at that time. We didn't really contemplate, I don't think at that time, about Lawrence School specifically. So no, I don't think that the 500,000 was based actually on some quotes and proposals, discussions that we had with other vendors.
But it did anticipate the schools and the.
It always did.
Reviews.
That comprehensive building condition index study always was going to include the school. The issue is it just never was going to go into the detail that the MSBA requires.
Thank you.
And it goes back to, I'm sorry, it just goes back to Mr. Brown's point about schools being town buildings
Right.
that were on the list. I'll go to you and then come back.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what the town manager said. Everything we said was correct, obviously. After we came up with that initial conservative $500,000 estimate, we did then refine the quotes that we got back and found that we could do everything that we planned to do and the $132,000 for the Lawrence School within that $500,000. So I just want to clarify, we're not eliminating any of the planned scope in order to accommodate this.
That was kind of where I was going.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a very excellent point of
Madam Chair,
clarification.
will you entertain a motion?
Thank you. Got it.
I make a motion
Yes.
to approve the statement of interest as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to business number 3, update discussion concerning the establishment of a licensing commission, and I'm going to send that over to Attorney O'Keefe. Okay.
Okay.
No, that's what I don't need.
Okay. Good evening, Mario O'Keefe, Town Council. I am here to provide you with an update on where we are on perhaps establishing a licensing commission. So, in your packet, you have 2 items from me. One is a draft home rule petition, and this is just a draft. It is a work in progress because I need more information from you. You also have in the packet a chart with examples from other towns that have created licensing commissions, specifically towns and not cities. As you'll see from the chart, there are 3 towns, Amherst, North Attleboro, and Provincetown, that all have a licensing commission that was established by charter. I'm also wanted to show you this. I was trying to find some sort of information for you to put this in context about cities versus towns and the volume of licenses that cities versus towns process, and why licensing commissions are mostly established by cities, and there are only a handful of towns that do it. There is a nexus with volume, and Falmouth is a really interesting place because the town is accepted from the quota system that almost every community is subject to. It's tied to population. But in Falmouth here, we have a special act that allows the town to issue as many licenses as it deems fit for the public good. And that means that we have a lot of licenses here. So that the Falmouth has a disproportionate number of licenses that it issues. And what I want to point out with this map is some of the information is a little out of date, and this was created in 2018, and some of it is incomplete, but I do think that it conveys an overall message. And what I want to point out here is that the orange hues have more licenses. So you look down here, the darker orange, almost red, you find in Boston and Springfield and Worcester, and then it grades lower. Falmouth is in this, it's in a light orange. So Falmouth has about 100-ish licenses that it issues right now. And if you look across all of the orange hues, they're all cities. And the only towns here that are orange-y are Brookline, Brookline, Barnstable is not a town, it's a city that goes by the town. The only other one that you're gonna find here is Brookline. It has a population of 63,000, and Plymouth, which is also a town, with a population of 61,000. But Falmouth is also up there. It processes a lot of licenses. And most of the licenses that you see on this map are processed by separate licensing commissions. Almost all of them in the orange, with the exception of Plymouth and Brookline, have licensing commissions separate and apart from their legislative body. I just wanted to point that out here for you, because this is in line with what the charter review commissions have been saying, that here in this town, it's simply a lot of work and maybe something that the select board doesn't need on their plate. So what I'm looking for from you now is I just want to point out some of the characteristics of what is being proposed here in the home rule petition. The home rule petition has the following features. The commission is proposed to be a 5-member board. These are all things that we talked about the last time I was before you. The members serve for 3-year terms. They are appointed by the select board, and the proposed licensing commission would have the power to issue the following licenses: common victulars, all alcohol licenses, including retail, restaurant, club, one-day licenses, for example, entertainment licenses, inn holders, lodging houses, fortune tellers. I don't know how many of those are out there in this town, but they do require a license. Used car dealers, secondhand dealers, pool tables, billiards, bowling alleys, flammable storage facilities, aquaculture, dock licenses, and special event permits. I don't know that all of those need to be moved into the jurisdiction of the licensing commission if you decide to go this route. I might recommend that this board retain the aquaculture and the dock licenses. Those are kind of unique features that don't really fit in with the regular jurisdiction of a licensing commission, and in fact, the aquaculture licenses are things that are usually retained by a select board. Dock licenses are unique to Falmouth in that they are they're part of the zoning scheme. Under the home rule petition, I'm just going to point out two other things. Under this home rule petition, the licensing commission would also have the power to establish rules and regulations and impose conditions and restrictions. and it would have the ability to enforce the laws and regulations concerning any license within its jurisdiction. So today, I'm just looking for some feedback, and it's on 2 points. The first is, do you want to pursue this? And then the second is, what's the delineation? What licenses do you want to retain, and what do you want to move to the commission if you decide to pursue it?
Go ahead.
Would roadways and public lands remain under, I mean, would that be one we consider to keep under the select board? Because it's kind of a different thing, too. Like, sometimes people have encroachments on the roadway.
Oh, so a
and we
grant
give them
of
a
lo-
license for a stone wall that was built by accident or whatever.
That's an excellent question. Those are a very different kind of license because it involves the use of town property by someone else for their own private use. I don't classify that. I don't put that in the same kind of classification as these licenses where you're
What I
allowing
was
someone
getting
to do
at,
a
right.
business. The select board would retain jurisdiction over the grant of a license to have someone keep their fence in their front yard, for example.
Okay.
Do any of the cities just have under their jurisdiction just the liquor licenses under a liquor commission or licensing commission?
So from experience with my prior life in Newton, Newton's licensing commission just did alcohol and CVs and entertainment.
Okay, that was my question.
And that was something that you could absolutely do. Start, this doesn't have to be set in stone. You could just move the alcohol licenses and the CVs and then keep everything else. When you're doing a special act like this, there's a lot of room for, and it could be malleable.
And just for the people at home, CV is common victual or
Common vic, yeah.
restaurant.
Thank you. That's certainly something that I would consider personally, is those 2 licenses going somewhere other than here. But go ahead, Mr. Muscala.
At the last meeting, I asked you about appeals, and you said that the appeal would be to the Superior Court if we went with a licensing commission such as this. Is there a way for the Select Board within the Act to retain the ability to handle appeals, rather than have the applicant need to go to the Superior Court and incur a large expense in that situation?
So there's actually a middle tier already. Any decision of the local licensing commission gets appealed to the ABCC first, the state regulatory
Well,
authority.
that's liquor. I mean, you're just talking liquor, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I am just talking liquor and
I'm thinking of other
licenses.
as well.
So I think that you could, so part of the draw with a special act is that you're asking the legislature to create an exception, to go outside what the statute says. I don't know that there's a way to take away appellate rights to an extent where you are prohibiting someone from going into Superior Court.
Well, we could offer the opportunity, I mean, possibly. I mean, I'm not saying they can't go to the Superior Court, but if there was a way to allow the Select Board to hear appeals if someone wanted to appeal in the first instance to the Select Board without having to go through the whole process of a Superior Court complaint.
Maybe.
Okay.
Like adding.
Just asking the question.
And I want to make sure that I understand. So you'd be adding an appellate layer, because they would always have to go to the ABCC. You'd be adding, so you could appeal a decision of the licensing commission to the select board, and then to the ABCC, and then to the Superior Court.
Or if it was an entertainment or a lodging
Yeah.
license.
I mean, somehow, the Select Board retained the ability to, reverse what was done by the licensing commission before the applicant would have to go to the Superior Court.
I think you could. This is a regulatory board. It is very similar to the ZBA and to the planning board when they act in their quasi-judicial role. Those decisions specifically do not get kicked back to the select board for specific reasons. You imbue the members of a regulatory board with the power to make these quasi-judicial decisions. Inserting the select board back into the process dampens that authority. It also sort of negates the whole purpose of doing this in the first place. So, because now you're just reinserting yourself into a process that we're trying to get you away from.
I'm imagining there's not going to be that many appeals. I mean, so I don't see it as really reinserting us in any major process. The second question is with respect to like rules and regulations, we could frame it such that those rules and regulations would be recommended to the select board and the select board actually adopt them? Would we have to give the licensing commission the ability to make their own rules and regulations, or is it something we can somehow control?
I'd like to see it, if there's still a desire to be involved in licensing, to have them be subject to approval of the select board instead. Again, for the same reason, creating regulations is a time-intensive process. It requires its own hearing, its own, it took us 2 years to do the entertainment regulations. If you're going to create a licensing board, you should also give them the power to regulate themselves. The key here also is another aspect that we talked about was that you'd be able to appoint people who had a deeper level of understanding about the industry. So you'd have people who would be able to create regulations that actually had their finger on the pulse. And nothing against your expertise, but.
No, I hear you. I'm going to go to Ms. Goldstone and then back to Mr. Brown.
Yeah, so I have two kind of related questions. Quick question to you, Maura. Hawker Peddler?
Right. I'm still looking
what
at
is
that.
and why would that be one of the two that you would recommend? And because you recommended holding aquaculture, actually docks, and Hawker Peddler as.
Yeah, I'm still trying to unravel that. Hawker Peddler is one of these licenses. It's an incredibly arcane license, and there are a bunch of moving pieces and parts with them. It's under a different section of the statute. So it's under Chapter 101, and right now, there's part of the license that's issued by the state, because it has a separate component there, and then the police chief actually issues the other part of the license here in Falmouth. I can't figure out why it is that way, because the statute actually says that the select board is supposed to be issuing those, so I'm still doing research on that. It's very different. It's a very different license from these alcohol and entertainment and CV licenses. So it very easily sort of lends itself to being carved out to stay wherever the jurisdiction is here in Falmouth. I'm still confused by it.
Okay.
Mr. Brown? Oh, did you have another one?
I'm sorry. Well, sorry. Another question to fellow board members, I guess, in thinking about which licenses we might retain and which ones we would delegate to a licensing commission. I mean, I'm curious why delegate alcohol and common victualler and keep things like entertainment, in-holder car dealerships. I mean, is it just because of volume? Or, I mean, all of the car dealerships, in-holders, these all feel like things where we have zoning to dictate whether that's an appropriate business or use of a portion of land, and so then it's a business license. To me, the one that would stand out as maybe something we would want to keep would be more like special events, where we're actually thinking about how do we want to use our space in ways that are not really like covered by zoning. Does that make sense?
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Zelinski.
This is all liquid anyway. I mean, pardon the pun, I mean, it's all amendable as we go. You wouldn't want to do a full-blown rollout. You would want to do a test pattern on a few of them and then amend to that, correct? Or is that available?
You could do that. I mean, when you're talking about amending the charter, you have to ask permission from the state legislature.
Yep.
So we could do a partial rollout and have it just be alcohol, entertainment, and CVs, which all go very well together, and then go back once successful and say, oh, we want to add these things, and the state says no. They could do that. I don't know. You know, you're just putting your hands in someone else. So the more concrete we can be, the the first shot, the better. But I'm also toying with trying to figure out if, because I knew this question was going to come up.
By me?
No, I mean, I never know what you're going to ask me. So, it could be anything. But I'm also toying with the idea of maybe adding a provision in the home rule petition that says something along the lines of setting out these licenses that would be moved to the licensing commission, and then have it say, and any other licenses established by bylaw. So that.
As directed by select board.
You laughed right
Why?
at you.
Why? Let go. All of you. Just let go.
Because I
Let
think
someone
there
else
is
do
a.
this for you.
I do think,
Did you have a question?
I do,
Mr.
yes.
Brown?
I've
Go
been
ahead.
waiting patiently. So, we're doing this in order to make the select board more available for policy and other important business. But now we're gonna be creating another whole open meeting group, because in the interest of the public, it's gonna have to be televised and minutes, and now the town manager's office is gonna be busy with another entity, and they might be starting to get too busy for us. Are we gonna have to hire a second assistant town manager or some other department staff to manage a new entity?
Well, the administrative work, it won't increase. The administrative work is going to get done with the same amount. I mean, there aren't going to be more licenses just because you create a new licensing commission. The only thing that's going to change is it won't be on your agenda.
Well, it'll be another meeting to be managed, another
set of minutes.
Yeah.
It'll actually streamline it, though, I mean, because that's all they'll be doing, right?
The real work will be, I'll probably have to go to their meetings for the first year to make sure that they're doing it right, which I'm happy to do. But it will require some ramp-up training for them to know how to be a commission.
Go ahead, Mr. Viscali.
so it seems like, Maura, you have some questions, we have, some questions as well. And the recommendation or the request from the town manager was that we give you direction so that you could get this on the April warrant. What's the time frame for that? Because I think there's, I don't know what kind of direction you're looking for, but I've got some questions, and I think even council has some questions. So
the timeline.
where do we go from here?
So January 27th is our target, right? That's when we come
Yeah,
to
I
you
mean,
to vote the
So, I mean,
vote the
I don't
warrants.
think
There's no action to be taken tonight.
Right.
No.
There's no action to be taken.
And I'll add one other thing that will maybe help you with that decision. I'm not asking for the actual petition to be approved on January 27th or 26th, whatever it was that you said. Just whatever would go on the warrant would be to authorize the select board to submit the petition. And then we could continue to work on whatever the home rule petition is and submit it at our leisure. And that vote doesn't go stale. That means that we could continue to work on it for a year. We could continue to work on it for 6 months. We could figure it out and take our time doing that. But I would like to get just a town meeting vote authorizing the select board to submit it. And that would be the whole sum of the warrant article. You don't have to submit it. That could be an option. If at some point, 6 months from now, you decide that it's not good enough and you don't want to do it, and you just want to retain all of the ability to issue the licenses, then we just don't submit the home rule petition.
And our charter review committee has recommended this.
Twice.
I was just going to say, more than once. And I think we owe them, and I've said this for a while, we owe them the respect to look at it and consider it really carefully, whether we submit it or not. But I think that's important. They did a lot of work around this, and they have recommended it twice.
Certainly okay with some.
I'd be okay with the liquor and the entertainment and the common victualler.
I would as well.
I would like to retain the other.
I would as well.
There's no action tonight.
Nope.
We're not really
nope.
discussing that.
But she's
at this
looking
point.
for
No,
feedback.
but she is, she is looking for feedback, and I would agree with Mr. Brown. We don't have to vote. We can move this on to the 27th to decide if we want to create a warrant article and go from there.
Has
The
anybody?
warrant article would be what Maura is saying, which is to
Yes.
authorize the submission of a petition.
That's all.
And without talking about which
Without
licenses
specifics.
or anything
Nope.
else.
Nope, just to
That's right.
submit it.
Okay.
Is there
Good
anybody that thinks it's a bad idea?
I think it's an
No, I think
idea that we need to, in my own opinion, a little more discussion and feedback from council as well, so.
I mean, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
solicit feedback that she's asking for. So.
Yeah, and I'm not sure in terms of putting a warrant article together, we need more feedback. It simply asks,
That's what I'm saying, I mean, I'm
we
fine
can
with
do
that,
that.
and it will be fine on the
Right.
27th, as far as the actual petition and
and
what
what
it,
it looks like.
what it contains.
I agree.
Whether it's, includes liquor, all these other things, that's something that we can
We have to talk about.
develop and talk about,
And,
that's
and
all.
we have forever to do that, because I think you said that the vote doesn't go stale.
Doesn't go stale.
So, I
Okay.
like that. All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Right.
you very much.
Thank you.
For all the work on that. Okay, we're going to move on to business number 4. Consider a vote to approve an application for a Class II used car dealer license, Hickey Autos, Inc., DBA Executive Auto, 118 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth.
One of those licenses.
Is someone here to represent the applicant, or Mr. Renshaw, do you want to take this one?
I will certainly take it. I'm not sure if the applicant
I
is
don't
here.
see anyone.
So,
Okay.
so as a summary, Hickey Autos, doing business as Executive Auto, missed their deadline to apply to make the December 16th renewal of their license. Their current license expired December 31st of 2024. On December 24th of 2024, the business was notified by mail through the Select Board office, and a copy of that notice is attached, of the fact that its license would in fact expire on December 31st, 2024, and that sales of automobiles prior to the issuance of a new license would constitute operating without a license and in violation of MGL Chapter 140. Town Council, I believe, assisted the front office with the creation of that letter that was sent out. Madam Chair, both the Falmouth Police Department and the Falmouth Fire Rescue Department have reviewed the application, and as you can see in your packet, have indicated they have no objections to the issuance of the license. Just wanted to point out that the reason we're here tonight and hearing this is that the business, in effect, missed their renewal deadline to make the December 16th meeting. They had to reapply for a new license, basically initiate that process all over again.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Zelinski.
After reviewing the packet, I obtained some information on, they're under a special permit issued in 1996 and then amended in 2001, which grants them license to display 16 vehicles with some other findings and conditions, which I rolled through there tonight. I'm going to be asking my fellow board members to continue this till they can check this out. There was an excess of 60 vehicles in the property, at least 50 of them unregistered.
What I was going to say is not only has the applicant missed the deadline, he's also missed the opportunity to come before this
And
board
answer
and
these
explain
questions.
his situation. So I agree with you. I think at the very least, I mean, I don't necessarily want to deny it, but I would certainly continue it and, have the town manager's office reach out to Mr. Hickey or whoever the owner is and tell him he should be here on the 27th.
I agree with you, but I would urge that the town manager instruct his code enforcement, somebody that can interpret that special permit and do the research on it to make sure he's in compliance. Because there's quite a few, after reading through it, that is going to have to be addressed before we can make a decision, and I promise you that.
And I would agree with Mr. Zelinski and Mr. Muscally that we tabled this and we bring it back before us at another time.
I agree.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, we're going to move on. Business number 5, consider a vote to approve sending a letter to Mass DOT requesting the department relocate and make ADA compliant the existing pedestrian crosswalk route 28A Old Dock Road as recommended in the 2023 safety audit. Anything you want to add, Mr. Renshaw?
Yes, a couple of things, Madam Chair. As we all know, Mass DOT does wonderful work with these road safety audits. Back in April of 2023, The Mass DOT conducted one of these RSAs, or road safety audits, between Old Dock Road and Chappaquoit Road. A report from that road safety audit was issued in July of 2023 that identified several high safety payoff improvements along this particular segment of road. Madam Chair and Select Board, one of the most impactful and important improvements, as recommended by the Mass DOT's RSA, Road Safety Audit of 2023, involves making improvements at the existing crosswalk from Old Dock Road to the mouth of the entrance to the West Falmouth Market. Specifically, the Mass DOT Road Safety Audit recommended considering relocating this specific existing crosswalk across Route 28A at Old Dock Road to an area that has greater visibility and fewer accessibility and vehicle encroachment concerns. They indicated there was a high safety payoff if this improvement were made, a midterm time frame, a high cost, and again, based upon the report recommendation, it was page 19 of I think, close to a 100-page report. The second recommendation or observation related to this particular crosswalk was that the recommendation was to bring all crosswalks to Americans with Disability Act compliance, including the use of high visibility markings and the installation of curb ramps, again, specific to this existing crosswalk, making those improvements. Again, the report indicated a high safety payoff, a high return, in other words, midterm time frame, a high cost. And lastly, as part of the recommendation, looking at this specific crosswalk, was to evaluate the installation of a rapid rectangular flashing beacon system at the crosswalk at Route 28A. Sorry, there's a typo in your report. 28A at Old Dock Road, the Quaker Meeting House, and the fire station. And again, as to the other recommendations or observations as part of this road safety audit, the Mass DOT indicated if this improvement of installing this rapid flashing beacon were done, they considered there would be a high safety payoff, a midterm time frame, and again, a high cost. Madam Chair, Select Board, the West Falmouth Village Association is requesting, and they've reached out to Select Board office on a couple of occasions, they're requesting that the Select Board, working with my office, draft and submit a letter to Mass DOT stating that immediate action should be taken to install an ADA-compliant crosswalk in a location north of the West Falmouth Market driveway, and that the crosswalk be accompanied by a pedestrian-operated blinking light, making it abundantly clear to drivers when pedestrians are crossing the road. So, Madam Chair and Select Board, my recommendation is that Select Board direct my office to work with Town Engineer and DPW to draft and submit a letter to Mass DOT's District 5 office stating again that immediate action should be taken to install these improvements at this specific existing crosswalk.
For me, this is a no-brainer, to bring it up to ADA compliance, so I'm going to move the motion that you just read.
Second. Just a question.
Go ahead.
So the current crosswalk would be eliminated?
It would be relocated.
Relocated, relocated, and, north of, Old Dock Road is, a rather large area. We're talking about not a very long, not a large distance, but moving it further towards the entrance to the West Falmouth Market. Is that kind of what the suggestion is? Or
I believe that's
the area where we're talking about?
Yes, and again,
So it's like maybe 20 feet or 30 feet.
To an area that the engineers would determine to have greater visibility and fewer accessibility and vehicle encroachment concerns.
Just
So
get
I
it
think
away
that would
from
be-
the driveway, away from that intersection, and
It's an
a
awful
little
place
close.
to have
Yeah.
it. I spend a lot of time there in the summer.
I just
and
want,
it's
I want to know where it's
crazy.
going to be,
Yes.
or where we're thinking it's going
Yes.
to be, and I think I understand where it's going to be.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. All right, we are going to move to the minutes, review and vote to approve minutes of meetings. Public session, July 29, August 26, September 23rd, December 2, all of 2024.
I move rule.
I have no issues with them, Madam Chair, either.
I need to abstain from December 2nd as I was absent from that meeting.
Okay. Mr. Muscally?
No problem.
Okay, so let's take them this way. Motion to approve, July 29, August 26, September 23rd, 2024.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay, let's take December 2nd. Motion to approve the public minutes of meetings December 2nd, 2024.
I move approval.
Okay,
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
One abstain.
One abstention. Thank you. Okay, Town Manager's supplemental report. Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very quickly, this is more of an update. I included at your desks a copy of a letter that the Select Board Office received from the Mass DOT State Traffic Engineer. As you all recall, April Town Meeting directed my office to draft a petition letter to the State Traffic Engineer in regards to reviewing posted speed limits and reducing the speed limits on 3 segments of Locust Street and Woods Hole Road. The petition letter was sent to Mass DOT, the State Traffic Engineer, on September 27th, 2024. The letter that you have before you is basically the State Traffic Engineer's response. They had a 90-day window, if you recall. If they hadn't responded within 90 days, the request to reduce speed limits along that road segment, Locust Street and Woods Hole Road, would have automatically gone into effect. They made the deadline by about a week by responding by December 19th. As you can see, the State Traffic Engineer determined that the petition cannot be granted in full. Staff from the Mass DOT's District 5 office completed a thorough investigation of the request, and a posting of the speed limits as petitioned would not conform with Mass DOT's procedures for speed zoning on state highways and municipal roads. However, the win that we did get notification of was that they are going to continue to do a thorough review of the existing speed zoning on Locust and Woods Hole Road, with the ultimate goal of encouraging vehicle speeds that are better aligned with the context of the roadways. I'll be honest, I don't know exactly what that means. I just wanted the board to know that we did receive, before the holidays, a response from the State Traffic Engineer indicating that they were not going to grant the petition as drafted.
Question for council, what's town's recourse in such a situation? If
There's none.
there's absolutely none, we can't do
No,
anything
they
against it?
They have authority, statutory authority over that.
Speed bumps?
State roads?
You can find a windmill to tilt that, maybe?
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, Select Board reports. I'm happy to begin. I just would like to notify the board and the public that I will be stepping off the board as of May, and I will notify the town clerk's office in writing prior to February 10th.
We're going to miss you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any other Select Board reports?
I would say,
Go
I
ahead,
don't
Mr.
remember
Brown.
if I reported this. Did we talk about having attended the surf drive nourishment study? Was there a meeting in between?
That was, I think, in between our Monday meeting and the very brief
Yes,
Yeah.
Thursday
Thursday
meeting.
meeting.
Just
I think
that,
you're right.
It was very well introduced, and a lot of people attended, and it's very informative. Talking about surf drive and the possibilities and the lack of some other possibilities where
And it was recorded.
it was recorded,
Because
yeah.
I actually wanted to go, but I didn't because I heard that 3 members were going to be there. I didn't want to get, and I did reach out to Mr. Johnson's job.
I
so
asked a couple
I was able to
questions,
see
but,
it.
we didn't all make any plans.
Right.
Didn't deliberate, right?
No,
We didn't
it was-
deliberate.
Any other Select Board reports?
Nope.
Okay, it's a lot
Mr.
of news.
Miscali?
Nothing.
It's been a
No,
quiet
it's been a
couple of
quiet
weeks.
couple of weeks with the holidays.
Okay, that's not what I'm asking you, Mr. Muscali. I'm asking you to make a motion to
Motion to adjourn.
It's your favorite thing to do.
Really?
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, folks.
Happy New Year.